And they made it through. They went past the Lions, who are going back home. And like we've said, there's something about the AFCON. Since 2010, defending champions have not gone past the round of 16. Round of 16, they haven't gone past the round of 16. So think about it. If your country wins the AFCON, be very concerned, because probably in the next edition, they might not make it past the round of 16. Let me get to the touchpad. Edwin Kwakofi's picked out a few things from the game that you would like to share with us. Edwin.
Hello, Nathan. I'd like to go through the 2 goals that were scored in normal time in the game. First one, obviously for Senegal, they took the lead very early on, and it came from an error from a very experienced Ivory Coast player. So as the throw-in comes in, I'd like to point it here. Mane gets the ball. So there's no danger here. Aurier is on him. There are 2 other players behind him. Mane has nowhere to go. And then the error comes from Serge Aurier. Take a look at it here. Here. What he's doing right here, it's right. He's a captain. He's directing his teammates. Because there was someone, a Senegal player, free here. He's telling his teammates to move and cover that area. But what this does is, he takes his eye off Mane for 1 second. And that's the quality of Sadio Mane. You take your eye off him for 1 second and he can produce. So once he does that, he loses focus. Mane is able to turn on his outside and then puts a wonderful ball into the box. And this is all about the quality of Diallo. This is wonderful quality. The control and finish. You can't really blame the defenders there. They had everything covered. But when you have a player of the quality of Diallo, you have a player of the quality of Mane, this is what happens. You can't really avoid it, and you concede a very, very avoidable goal.
So Serge Aurier was to blame.
Serge Aurier was...
He slipped on the job for a second.
1 second, and he was actually directing his teammates to... He had this covered, so he wanted his teammates to move. He takes his eye off for 1 second. Mane is able to turn and put the ball into the box, and that is how the goal comes about.
I see. Interesting stuff there. So the lesson of the moment, don't sleep on the job. Not for a second.
not even for 1 second.
Especially against quality like Sadio Mane. And now, when I was watching that sequence evolve, the throw-in comes in, I go like, Mane, that's a wrong decision. What are you trying to do? And I thought he didn't have enough support. But for him to find the cross on the outside.
On the outside with his weaker foot.
And hit
that's amazing.
And the cross takes out. An Ivorian player attempts to head the ball.
Head it.
And that was it. I think he misjudged the flight of the ball. Didn't look behind him, just threw himself at it. And he was the closest to even make a tackle, so he was just off balance. Yeah. Gave him all the room to man, and it was a powerful shot.
A very powerful shot.
I watched it, didn't see it coming. I'm imagining the goalkeeper.
Wonderful control initially to get the ball onto a position for him to take the shots on the half volley. Wonderful shot. So the equalizer for the Ivory Coast.
80th minute.
Very late equalizer for the Ivory Coast.
Yes.
80th minute. Okay, so so over here, we stop it here. He has a couple of options to make the pass to, or maybe 3 options. He can either go through here, reverse the pass back to his teammates.
Okay.
Try and wait for the forward to make the run and then find him. Or go very long to Nicolas Pepe, who's making the run on the outside.
And Pepe is actually lifting his hand.
He's lifting his hand. He wants the ball. And you take a look at it. He doesn't make the pass immediately. He takes his time, assesses the options, and then decides to make the pass. This pass was for Pepe. Even though it was intercepted by his teammates, it was meant for Pepe, who was making the run on the outside.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it was intercepted by his own teammates. But Pepe does get onto the ball, and then Mendy makes the mistake. Now, I'd like to take us a few seconds back to see what happened here. Let's go on for a little bit. I've always complained about spaces between defenders, between centre-backs and full-backs. Look at the gap right here. That is enough space for our passing player to decide whether to go for this player or even go way beyond for Pepe. You don't allow that. As a defender, you need to create you need to cover enough space to ensure that if a pass is coming through, you can block it off, or ensure that you are close enough to make sure the pass doesn't get into a dangerous player in behind you, where the outside player has a chance to run in on your goalkeeper. And this is way too much space. If he had been here, if he had come here, if he had been a little ways here, the pass goes on the outside to Pepe, and he has enough time to turn and then mark Pepe or get on Pepe and trying to stop him from putting the ball into the box.
But I mean, just a final note, that pass came from Sebastian Haller.
Sebastian
For a
Haller.
striker, that was a very, very good pass.
It was a very, very good pass. And I mentioned on radio, I was on radio during the game, that I thought he was the most important substitution in the game. He came on, he added a bit of quality that Ivory Coast were lacking in that final third. And even this, he added some passing quality that we didn't see enough of from Ivory Coast before the penalty, before this one. And
it makes you think about his time at West Ham. And probably, because some people actually believe that he was misprofiled.
Absolutely.
At West Ham. And the same fate befell Gianluca Scamacca.
Yes.
And how many people in England didn't see his quality, but in Italy, he's a fantastic footballer.
There have been a number of players like that. I'd like to point out Joel Linton at Newcastle, who was also misprofiled as one of the big burly strikers, number 9. But this is a player who can hold on to the ball. He can compete with players. So Eddie Howe moved him fell deeper into midfield, and he's been thriving there ever since. There are so many examples you can point to. But as you said, Haller, very much misprofiled. And now he's been thriving, and what a pass really to find, initially to find Nicolas Pepe, but eventually it did get to him. And
I didn't think the touch, even though it was inadvertent, it kind of helped Pepe latch onto the balls, because for a moment, the focus was on the player who took the touch. And all of a sudden, that's how come Mendy couldn't time it properly, because the touch gave them this pause. And I don't understand why the referee didn't see this as a penalty initially.
I guess, look, I mean,
he gave Pepe a yellow card. I was like, exactly. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Wow.
The referee not seeing that was one of a few errors from the officials in the game. We didn't get the Sadio Mane tackle, but I think everyone here understands that was a straight red card, or that should have been a straight red card.
It's the star player tax,
to Sadio Mane, and there's no way that shouldn't be given as a penalty. We'll take a closer look at it, and Mendy gets a huge chunk of the attacking player. Maybe we can magnify it a bit too. Okay. That won't work, but I think everyone can see that this is a clear tackle. Mendy gets a huge chunk of the player, does not get any of the ball, and eventually justice was served. VAR intervened. Ivory Coast got their penalty, and Frank Kessie. I read up on a stat about penalties where if a player is taking a penalty in normal time and it's guaranteed that scoring would give his team a win or a draw to take it into extra time, they are successful over 80% of the time. So we were trusting Frank Kessie to prove that stat right.
I see.
There have been a few instances, I know, very famous instances where we've been proven wrong in that stat. The Black Stars can attest to that, but I think Frank Kessie got the
of course, I mean, we'll have a deeper discussion on penalties along the line. Maybe not today, but you are right about the pressure. You need to master the situation first, and then you can think of putting that, because that was a high pressure penalty.
Very high pressure.
Pressure penalty. Your country gets a second chance in an AFCON. And you have to score.
Or basically a third chance.
A third chance
to stay in the AFCON.
If you like.
If you hadn't scored that,
we're going to batter him.
All right. I don't know which other thing you want to...
I think we're done for the touch. Okay. We'll come back to deal with how penalties are taking, the science of penalties, and what players should do or shouldn't do when they are taking penalties.